If you've lost your job or you're about to, you're in a very, very unstable situation with your income. Not generally afraid of the COVID shutdowns, the coronavirus shutdowns, but you really are about to lose a job or have lost a job or you're furloughed. Okay? Do buy food first, lights and water second, pay your mortgage or your rent third. Do keep gas in your car. Do look for an interim job with one of the grocery chains or the delivery folk. All the pizza places are hiring. You can make some money to keep your household running for a period of time until that job you had comes back or you get a new one.
Yep.
Just like if you just walked in a non-coronavirus situation and they said we're doing layoffs. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't just go home and sit and cry. You might for a minute, but then you get up and you get after it.
Yes, sir.
You got to hustle and grind, right? Yeah. And so you do that. Don't cash out your 401k. No. Unless it's to avoid a bankruptcy or a foreclosure, and there's no way you're in a bankruptcy or a foreclosure today because of the coronavirus.
No way.
You were already there, and the coronavirus pushed you over the edge, maybe.
Right.
But the coronavirus shutdown and associated income losses are not old enough to have caused a bankruptcy or foreclosure. A foreclosure, folks, takes 6 months in almost every state. And usually longer. Mm-hmm. And so if you've missed April's payment, you are not in foreclosure. You're just late. Mm-hmm. That's it. Calm down. Do not cash out your 401k. Now, let's take another group of people and say you, okay, your income is stable. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you're just generally worried about the whole coronavirus thing. Well, welcome the human race right now, right?
Right.
But, and so, like, I don't know, Papa works at UPS and Mama's a teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, those are two stable incomes.
Stable.
They're not, I got an issue. The deliveries are going on, and the teacher's salaries, even though they're at home, are going on.
Yep.
And they're really not in jeopardy. They're not about to be furloughed. They're not about to do a bunch of massive layoffs. Those are two stable incomes. You're a federal employee. You're a postal worker. Yeah. You're a healthcare worker. You ain't going nowhere.
Nowhere.
Okay, so those are stable incomes. Now, what are some do's and don'ts there?
So do pay your bills on time.
Yes.
All of them.
Yes.
Do go ahead and continue the baby steps, whatever baby step you're on. If you're on getting out of debt, do go ahead and continue getting out of debt.
Yes.
Don't take advantage of some of these forbearance plans, delay your utility bills. Do not do that. And that's very, very, very frustrating, Dave. I went to pay my bill, my mortgage payment the other day, and I just read up on the forbearance plan they're offering. And here's why I say do not do it. Even if you are a little scared, continue paying bills like we said, because at the end of your forbearance plan, if it's 3 months, all of it comes due at one time, including that month.
Yeah, look up the word forbearance in the dictionary.
Yes,
or
sir.
Google it for those of you who don't know what a dictionary is. But it does not mean forgiveness.
Yep.
It means patience.
Yes.
If I have forbearance with you, it means I have patience with you. I forbear with you. And I give you time. That's all it means. And so if you don't pay your payment this month, guess what?
Patience
you still got to pay it.
Yeah.
Patience you still got to pay it by this year.
Yes.
It's going to come back.
Yeah.
So delaying it just to say I delayed it, unless you can't pay it, but it's one of the first three things you pay, and you should be taking a job doing something.
Yes.
So do not get involved in one of these forbearance programs if there's any way you can avoid it, because it's going to catch up with you later.
And do not, if you're an entrepreneur or business owner, and Dave, you could talk more into this because that's what you are, do not take advantage of these government loans that they're calling government grants that will be forgiven.
They're not a grant.
Yeah.
They're not a grant. It is a loan with forgiveness provisions. And you read the details of the law like I've done in the last 24 hours, it'll scare the pee-wadding out of you.
Sure will.
And you listen, if you don't maintain employment exactly like it was, and they're going to be looking at every little thing, then you're going to get bit later.
Yeah.
Avoid this. Now, I'll tell you, there is something you do want to do if you're a small business. They are allowing the portion of the payroll tax that I have to pay as the employer to not get paid this whole year.
Ooh.
And then it is paid systematically or not over the next 2 years. It's delayed.
Okay.
It's not forgiven. It's put off, but it's delayed. And if that will help you, and, that's a lot of money here with 1,000 people working on this team.
Yes, sir.
We will definitely be not paying that payroll tax under this provision, knowing that we have to pay it next year and the next year. You make it up over the next 2 years, but through the end of the year, that's a lot of cash flow that will help make sure that our employees stay employed, that we don't have to furlough or lay somebody off by protecting that monthly cash flow. Yeah. Do that one.
Yes, sir.
Do not borrow money.
Yes.
From the SBA.
Yes.
Churches, do not borrow money from the SBA. The borrower is slave to the lender. When the government comes in, and after this is over, and some of these people that don't agree with your biblical viewpoint of life are going to come in and start telling you, you have to do this in order to get forgiveness. The Treasury Department is setting the regulations in place, and they take direction from Congress and from the president. Yeah. And depending on who's in the White House after November, that could get really messy for some of you people in the church world in particular.
Yeah.
And you do not want to get involved in, all of a sudden, you don't do something the way they think and according to political correctness, and you think that the Bible says opposite of that, and now you're going to find out the borrower is slave to the lender. Do not take this money. It is not free money.
It's not. And Dave, here's another one. Do not do cash advances. Do not do payday lender places.
You drove past a place yesterday.
I sure did, and I was so upset, and my IG followers knew it because I got on there, and I was trying to be respectful to the company because I didn't want to get in trouble.
Why?
Well, because you my boss, and I didn't want you calling me upset with me.
I think you ought to take them down.
But I mean, I seen 13 cars out there at this particular payday lender place, and I was frustrated.
Take 4 jobs. Do not borrow money at 800% interest.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
And that's what the payday lender charges. They're scum, and they're going to take advantage of you. Stay off of that lot unless you're sweeping the lot and they're paying you to sweep it. Don't even go in their driveway.
Yes.
Do not do that stuff. Do not cash out your 401k because you're afraid. No. Do not cash out your mutual funds because you're afraid. This time next year, you will be kicking yourself going, gah, gah. I jumped off a roller coaster right in the middle of the ride. No wonder both my legs got broke. I mean, my God, don't do this.
Don't take out a line of credit on your home.
Don't be borrowing money to get this mess covered. Don't be borrowing money on credit cards to cover this mess. No. The number of times, Anthony, doing crisis counseling over these 30 years that I've sat down with somebody and they go, well, I lost my job last fall, and that's how I got this $45,000 in credit card debt. And I'm like, wait a minute. How long were you out of work? 2 months. What did you make before you got laid off? $60,000. That's $5,000 a month. That's not $45,000 in 2 months. That's $10,000. What's the other $35,000? Oh, we bought some other stuff, but we justified it and rationalized it and called it unemployment debt, and all it was stupid because I was stressed out, freaked out, and I went to the mall to feel better, went to the car lot to feel better, and bought a bass boat to feel better. Yeah. God, don't do this stuff. This is the time to be wise and calm and deliberate and very careful steps on these slippery rocks. You're going to fall and bust your butt in a creek and be wet. Very careful steps. Do not cash out your investments. Do not delay payments on these loans, these student loans. I got free interest. So I hear people saying delay the payment. You're jumping all over them on that.
I'm jumping all over them. If you still got the income stuff coming in, no, go after the payments because now you can put more money towards the principal.
Yeah, no interest on my student loan for 6 months. That doesn't mean you stay in debt 6 more months.
No,
it means if you have a steady income, you attack that much harder.
Come on.
Now, if you're doing the 4 walls, cool.
Yeah.
Set it aside.
Yeah.
We're not worried about Sally Mae. She can starve, feed your kids.
Yeah.
But if you got a steady income, bust that thing, man. Use this opportunity to push through.
Yes, sir.
Don't be skipping payments unless you have to eat.
That's it.
Welcome to the Dave Ramsey Show. Ramsey personality, Dr. D, Dr. John Deloney, PhD in counseling, for those of you that have not yet been introduced to him. We're talking a lot today about anxiety, about fear, and taking your financial questions, your questions about how to deal with some of those things where people are mean to you, they're inappropriate to you. How do you react? How do you set boundaries in those situations? And Dr. D will be with us answering your questions. So what are some of the things that people can do? Because like our team went home last week, so there's nobody in our building right now except a handful of us skeleton crew to get this radio show going. In case people didn't know, we got about 1,000 people in the building doing all kinds of other things that have nothing to do with radio, and they're all working from home this week and next week. What are things people can do in those situations too? Because that break in routine can add to fear, can't it?
It can wipe you out, right? There's this part of our brain that is so, tricked to believe that familiarity is safety, right? And so anytime you get plugged into something and it's new, every alarm system goes off, right? So it's just about setting a new routine, mapping out your day. If you're married, if you got kids, if you're by yourself, set a plan for the day.
So like if you have almost a daily agenda and you follow that, even though it's new, because it was a plan, it lowers stress.
That's right. And it'll take a couple of days. Expect your kids to push on you and find out how strong those boundaries are. Expect your coworkers and your significant others to lean on you a little bit to see how firm that boundary is going to be. But absolutely, set up a plan, and over a couple of days, it'll just become your new normal, right?
Yeah, homeschooling is now a way of life for a lot of people. And
it is.
I love the post I saw this week. The lady said, homeschooling's, we just started it. It's going well so far. 2 of the students have been expelled for fighting, and the teacher got fired for drinking. Yeah, the teacher got fired for drinking. So it's bad. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people are experiencing some new stuff during this 2 weeks. They're also experiencing job loss.
That's right.
If you're in the hospitality world anywhere, you're probably at home.
That's right.
Airline, restaurants, for sure. Lots of hotels. You're at home, and you don't even know if you're going back in a lot of cases.
That's scary.
And that can be really, really scary. How do you manage through the stress of... I can talk about how to handle the money through the unemployment side, but how do you manage through the stress of that?
I think there's a couple of things you can do. I think the first thing is to not curl up in a ball, right? Because that's some of our default position. And like you said earlier, either curl up in a ball or don't start being angry at people. I think the most important thing, number one, is to get connected to folks and make sure that when you're staying at home that you're still FaceTiming with people you haven't talked to, still calling people you haven't talked to. Showing gratitude to folks, whether it's to yourself or whether it's to your neighbors, are important, to healthcare workers, delivery drivers. And then honoring your body, making sure you are sleeping and exercising and not just in the media sphere, right? Not just scrolling all day every day.
If you're scrolling through a bag of chocolate chip cookies and through every possible negative media account, by the end of the day, you are going to be miserable.
You are just spinning that anxiety spin cycle faster and faster and faster. That's right.
The crazy cycle's going on high speed.
That's right.
Yeah, and you're going to make yourself nuts.
That's right. Get outside and just go walk.
Yeah.
That's right. Get outside and go walk.
Yeah. And
there are places that are hiring. And it may not be the great jobs, it may not be perfect jobs, it may be tied over jobs, right?
And sometimes just doing something.
Do something, that's right.
Is better than nothing.
Almost always.
It does relieve. There's some sense of I have control of my destiny.
That's right.
Even though we never have 100% control of our destiny, we do control the controllables, and you need to control those things. And so I saw George Camel, one of our guys, post that these people are hiring right now. Aldi, Amazon posted, I saw a letter from their CEO. They're hiring 100,000 people.
Wow.
Amazon's going bananas. Costco, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, Domino's, Instacart, Jets Pizza, Kroger, Microsoft, Pepsi, Postmates, Publix, Slack, Target, Trader Joe's, UPS, Uber Eats, Walmart, Whole Foods, Zoom. They're all hiring.
That's right.
And so if you were waiting tables 2 weeks ago, you may be working there. And who knows? You might even accidentally find a new career.
That's right.
I guess that's a Ken Coleman show.
That's right. And something as similar as simple as my son and I were going for a walk the other day, and we just got a trash sack and some little rubber gloves we had from hunting season, and we just picked up trash in the neighborhood. I can't tell you, Dave, how many people stopped us and just said, thank you. Hey, can we join you? Hey, we're going to go home and grab. It was just a matter of doing something. We got to walk. We got some sunshine, and we got some together time, me and him. We stayed appropriately distant from everybody, but then we also got to help the neighborhood too. Something small and something little, but I got to feel like I wasn't just trapped in my house, unable to do anything, right?
Well, it's hard to have a pity party if you're helping someone else.
Every time.
It's hard because a pity party is fairly low attended.
So you see a party of one. That's right.
So, I mean, if you find an elderly person and you can that's locked in, and you can find out they need they're shut in. I mean, they need to stay in because they're high
Absolutely.
risk. You may make a grocery store run for them.
My buddy Kevin texted this morning, and he said, this is a great opportunity for millennials. They've got a bad rap. Instead of making TikTok workout videos, they could call the local Meals on Wheels and see how they can get involved there, or find other charitable organizations that are usually rounded out by older folks in our communities who are now having to stay inside. Man, what a cool moment to rise to the occasion and go help your communities. Stop making Instagram photos, man. Let's get out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's careful, because you have Instagram and so do I. But
that's
you're
right.
exactly right. Yeah, but it's not time for selfies.
There you go.
This is time for others, or whatever you call that, right? We'll start a whole new phrase here, but there is something that does happen in the brain chemistry when you're giving rather than brooding.
That's right.
That helps you get through the anxiety.
And we get to choose which thoughts we ruminate on, right? Or which ones that we're going to worship. And so when that negative thought, that fear thought comes in, you have a choice. And that is, you're right, I'm going to Google it. I'm going to go down the rabbit hole of anxiety. I'm going to go in the rabbit hole of pessimism. Or we can say, not today. I'm going for a walk. Or I'm going to grab my kid and we're going to head outside. Yeah. Or I'm going to tell my wife, great job.
Well, what happens is, inevitably, there's a real problem. Right. You got to pay the light bill.
That's exactly
right.
And
you got no money.
That's
you
right.
got to put food on the table, and you got no job.
That's right.
There's a real problem, but what inevitably I do, and I think it's human nature, is that we project that problem to its possible worst scenario a month and a half from now.
That's right.
And you can project in your mind the nation's economy or the nation's coronavirus curve.
Right.
The curve. God, help me with the curve. Right. But, but you can project the worry, and it just becomes debilitating stress when you project it out into the future.
That's right. And there's plenty of people who are trying to sell that to us as well, right?
It's like a full-time job.
That's right.
Well, and in some cases, they're just afraid.
That's right.
They're friends and family, and they're saying, if you don't do this, all of society is going to die. What kind of irresponsible? This is where people are getting mean,
right?
Because they're afraid,
right?
And it's scary from a macro perspective what a politician, a person in government, even the news media can pull off if you can get enough people afraid at the same time.
Isn't it wild?
This is how dictators come to power, is in situations where people become sheep because of fear.
Because of fear, that's right.
They huddle in the corner and do everything they're told. And so I'm afraid I'm a little bit more of a rebel than that. So I'm a little bit harder to mandate my thinking. But you have to back up and put critical thinking skills and go, okay, is the cure the problem? Has it reached the point that the cure is worse than the virus? Has it reached the point that the permanent damage to families' futures has superseded their health?
And for me, I tend to go macro, like you say. I tend to get 2 years, 5 years down the road and think of all these what ifs. And what I have to always do is draw myself back and say, I actually don't know the answer to that question.
And I can't control it.
That's right.
All I can control is what I can control.
Which is me right now.
And I have to be concerned about the families that work on my team.
That's right.
And are they going to be able to pay their bills because I acted responsibly and kept this place running?
Right.
Or versus, am I putting their health at risk?
That's exactly right.
And that's a leader's position. That's right. I have to make those decisions. And, in a family, you have to do the same thing. And as an individual, you have to do the same thing. But no one makes good decisions when they're panicked or drunk. Art Laffer says, my favorite quote of the year, and I'm going to use it a lot. He sent me an email last night, as a matter of fact, quoting it again. So Dr. John Deloney with us this hour, half hour, next hour, as we talk about money and we talk about what's going on out there and your feelings about it. I got a coach, got a counselor right here beside me. They give us our question of the day from Nancy in New York. Dave, you often refer to having 3 to 6 months of expenses, but what do you include? For example, as a homeowner, do I include my school and property taxes? Thank you. What does it take to operate your household a month over the scope of a year? Yes, that would include paying your taxes. Yes, that would include operating your household for a year. And divide that by 12, and you've got your annual. You got your monthly, and then multiply that by either 3 or 6. Right now, everybody's kind of thinking 6. There's a lot of people tempting me on social media to say I told you so, but I'm not going to do that. If you're hurting and you don't have your emergency fund. Hey, I understand. The beauty of a moment in time like this, John, is that I remember when my grandpa was alive. He was one of my favorite men to ever live. Grandpa Ramsey. He was a good man, and taught me to drive a tractor, taught me how to pull a rusty nail out of a board. And you can't hear me again? You can now? Good. Okay. Pull a rusty nail out of a board and straighten it out, old nail, and put it in a coffee can.
Yeah.
And his entire habit pattern in 1970 was affected by 1929.
That's right.
And it made him frugal. The Great Depression made him frugal. He's probably naturally frugal. We're Scotch-Irish, so we're probably naturally frugal people in our DNA or in our environment or whatever. But these times set new boundaries in your life. Sometimes it's a personal crisis, but when you go through a national thing, that's like your wake-up call, and you go, never again will I be caught without an emergency fund. Right. Because my stress level goes way down when I have 6 months of cash in the bank and we're facing a 1-month crisis. It changes everything. People reset their brains, don't they?
Isn't it beautiful? And when you have a crisis, your brain remembers, I don't ever want that to happen again.
Yeah.
Right?
It's debilitating in one sense. In another sense, it's a permanent change.
And it's freeing.
It's like transformation.
That's right. It can free you, and you can say, never again. There's my never again moment. I'm never going to be caught off guard by a virus I can't even see, right? An enemy I can't even see. And I'm going to make changes today that make sure this never happens again.
Yeah, I went through a personal one when I went bankrupt and lost everything. I said, never again.
That's right.
Am I going to be in a position? Never again will I miss a tithe check. Never again will I be without an emergency fund. Never again will I be without cash. Never again will I be in debt where someone takes something when something moves that's beyond my control. And that's what happened to me. It was beyond my control. But what wasn't beyond my control was being in debt. Being in debt was in my control.
There you go.
And so I never made myself susceptible to a national calamity, much less a personal calamity, again, in those areas.
That's right.
Now, I'm susceptible in other ways. Everyone's susceptible to something. But you control the controllables, and you say never again.
That's right. And I've done the same thing with, I'm never going to say that to my wife again.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to ruminate on the negative, what could be again, right? And you set all those never agains, and then you start creating patterns and opportunities for yourself and for those around you that it never happens again.
Yeah, and then later on, when it looks like someone says, well, everybody else goes in debt. Everybody else gets a credit card. Everyone else has a car payment. Everyone else does not save money because everyone knows that the economy is okay. Everyone knows that you're going to be okay. Everyone. And I just look at them, and what my old pastor used to say, a man with an experience is not at the mercy of a man with an opinion. Some of you are having that experience right now. I'm really sorry you're hurting, and I'm sorry you're scared. But the good news is, in all that manure, stuff will grow.
That's right. And a friend of mine, he's a rancher in West Texas, and he sent me an article once about parents in Great Britain and the UK giving their kids iPads, and they were 2 years old. And they said, I didn't want my kid to be the only one. And so him and I started saying that back and forth, just be the only one. And if you find yourself thinking, well, everyone else has credit cards, and that's the way the normal, I'm going to be the only one, right? If everyone else treats their wife this way, I'm going to be the only one who doesn't do that, right? And suddenly, over a period of time, people will start to say, why are you calm in this when things are going bananas? Why do you and your wife have such a great marriage? Why do your kids act this way in restaurants when mine don't? And suddenly you realize, because you're the only one that acts like that, right?
Yeah.
And then people around you start to change the way they live too.
My kid wasn't raised by screens.
There you go.
And my bank account's not empty.
That's right.
Because I'm YOLO.
That's it.
It's just Dave Ramsey's ridiculous. The stuff we teach is antiquated. It doesn't make sense in the real world. And then not as an I told you so, but just to say, guys, the stuff we teach works in good times. And the stuff we teach works in bad times. That's because it's what's known as the truth.
That's right. And fear tells you what you really believe, right? Like I'm scared of not having enough. Or I'm a kind person. I'm a giving person. I'm a joyful person. I follow all the rules. Now you can find out. You've been talking about Dave-ish. We can find out right now. When you're scared, what do you really believe? Who are you? Are you still kind? Are you still tithing? Are you still giving? Are you still joyful?
Yeah,
you get to find out right now when you're scared.
Stress test.
That's right.
Your character, your stress test, you're stupid. Stupid comes up lacking.
That's right.
And what Buffett said, when the tide goes out, you can tell who's skinny dipping.
That's exactly right.
That's it. That's what you're facing. So yes, you include your property taxes and your stuff in your emergency fund. And yes, having a rainy day fund is good regardless of what type of rain comes. And it's hard to predict all the different types of rain that can come. All right, Lee is with us in South Carolina. Hi, Lee. Welcome to the Dave Ramsey Show.
Hey, guys. Good afternoon. My question is, what should we be investing right now in this downturn?
Well, I mean, the stock market's down, for one thing, obviously. And so continuing to fund your 401k with good mutual funds is what I'm doing. I'm in the middle of building a building over here next door for the next piece of growth for Ramsey Solutions. So I don't have a bunch of spare cash to throw into mutual funds while they're on sale right now, or I would have. But I am continuing my steady 401k. Rachel and Winston, you're doing their 401ks, so that's down. Other things you can look around at, if there are things that you are normally purchasing that are down. Real estate is not down right now. Interest rates are down on mortgages, and so refinancing is a good time right now. But as far as straight up investing, the biggest thing that's on sale right now is the stock market.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of people, because everything is quote unquote on sale, they're trying to get in there and like do different things and all of that. But we're still pretty boring, even in a downturn with the market, of just doing mutual funds. I mean, so a lot of people are asking, is there a single stock? Is there something I should kind of dip in and go around? We're pretty simple and just like, hey, it's mutual funds. So you're still going to get a great deal on that. But at the end of the day, being able to diversify your risk and not going after these single stocks. But I've seen a lot of people in talks of that. They're trying to like bend the system, do all these like kind of different things because it's down, but don't take the use the common sense approach of mutual funds all the way, diversify that risk.
That's a good point, because what happens is people lose money in stuff like investing in mutual funds or investing in the stock market in general. They lose money when they're fearful and they pull at the wrong time. They also can lose money when they're greedy. And they're saying, I'm going to jump in.
Yes,
and it's like that kind of a thing. And you're not doing that, Austin. That's not your thing. Lee, I'm sorry. That's not what you're suggesting. You're just asking honest questions.
Yep.
The timing is good. What can we do? Well, good mutual funds. But what you're suggesting, Rachel, is I'm going to try something super risky right now because I'm so excited that everything's on sale. That's a kind of a greed.
Right.
That's more than just wise, steady investing. And so beware of that greedy thing. There is a famous Warren Buffett saying, and he doesn't mean greedy like a lack of virtue type greedy, but he always says, be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. And he doesn't mean be fearful, sucking their thumb in the corner, or being greedy like something from a movie. But his point is, be investing when people are not investing, and when they're not investing, maybe, or when they are investing, maybe you shouldn't be, that kind of a thing. He's always wants to say he's a contrarian, be opposite of what's going on. But just beware that if you get desperate, you get stupid, and if you get greedy, you get stupid. So Rachel's point is, don't dive off into some weird thing or some single stock or you can get scammed with this kind of stuff going on right now. The opportunities to jump in right now, and then the coronavirus is, this is awesome, and that right there is a good. You start feeling that kind of an emotion. That's not what he's saying, but you're warning against that. So. Yeah, I think just continuing to do your 401k investing, and if you have some extra money that you want to leave alone 10 years, yeah, it's a great time. The stock market's on sale. When I was a kid, there used to have blue lights at Kmart when there was a sale, and you'd run over to where the blue light was and buy whatever it was on sale. And so that's what's happening on the stock market right now. There's a blue light on. So we're taking questions. A lot of you are facing some fear out there. You're afraid of the economy. The harm to the economy brought on by what is perceived to be the cure, not the cure, but the way to limit the pandemic is everyone stay at home and shut down all the businesses, which shuts down people's income, which shuts down their lives. and so their lives are being harmed more by the cure, the average person in America, than by the actual virus. And some of you are very, very afraid. We've been urging people to remain calm. No one makes good decisions when they're drunk or when they're panicked, and some of you are both. And some of you are being really mean to other people because you're afraid, and you need to check yourself. This is the time that you need to grow up, regardless if you're 54. And I think one of the things I've seen that has caused people to be the meanest, particularly when it's directed at public figures, including myself, is when I don't know what this is, John, in the human psyche. You can help me with this. There's a level of arrogance, aristocracy sense, entitlement sense that tells you that it's not only your job to manage your space, but you're supposed to tell everyone else what to do.
So,
and we used to, when I was kids, we say none ya.
Right.
None ya business.
Right.
But mind your own business.
Right.
But people can't do that anymore. They're really good at minding everyone else's business, but you got a full-time job just taking care of your house right now.
You got more than a full-time job. You got more than a full-time job taking care of your own head right now. Yeah. I think we talk about fear is causing people to be unkind. I also think insecurity is too. Because there's this myth that we all should know what we're supposed to do all the time, especially husbands and dads across the country, moms and wives across the country. I'm supposed to know what to do. And you get this moment, I don't know what to do. And then the best way I can solve that sometimes is to yell at somebody else and tell them, well, you're doing yours wrong, right? Like we have this hierarchy of, as long as I'm not as bad as my neighbor is, then I'm okay, right? And that goes directly in opposition to just being kind.
My critical thinking path, that I don't know where it came from, it may be just my hillbilly rebellion self, but is contrarian. And so as soon as someone says this is the way it is, I immediately think, no, it's not.
That's exactly how I am too. That's right.
No, it's not. It's like, and the CDC says this, and I'm like, my cousin works at the CDC. That proves it right there. I mean, it's like.
So what if we're in the new rebellion is kindness?
Yeah.
Or the new rebellion is tipping obnoxiously, right?
Yeah, or delivering groceries to somebody who's shut in.
That's exactly right.
As you said, you walk down the street with a garbage bag and rubber gloves with your son picking up trash just to get out of the house, get some vitamin D.
That's exactly right. That's right.
And
how's that for a new rebellion, right?
Yeah, a whole different kind of kindness rebellion. But I'm just my point is that my first inclination is to be a sheepdog instead of the sheep. I immediately challenge authority, whatever it is. And my wife is pregnant with our first child 35 years ago, and the OB says such and such, and I went, I don't think so.
Oh, man.
And she said, you're not a doctor.
So bad about that, too.
You're not a doctor. I said, yeah, I know, but you're going to have to prove that. I'm not just because you got a white coat and a stethoscope does not mean I'm going to believe you. You got to make your case, dude. And, he made his case, and I went along. But, but it was not, I'm not going to just automatically fall in line.
That's right.
That's my nature. And so just because the president says something, the governor says something, for God's sakes, the mayor says something, that's proof right there that I'm just not going along. I'm not necessarily going to think the way they think. I have other responsibilities. I have critical thinking skills that are different, and I have to think for myself, and you got to think for yourself.
That's right.
In this. And so, I've got a friend who's recovering from cancer and has been through chemo, and he's thinking for himself, which he's staying at home. It's a really good idea.
Great idea. That's right.
Yeah, and not being, out there, not connecting to anybody, because he's in a weakened state. He's in a high-risk category with this thing. So answering your questions about those subjects, about fear, anxiety, about money, about life on the planet right now in this weird and wacky time, we love you, but we love ourselves to the point you're not allowed to be mean. And so I'm not going to fight with you. You're just wrong. You need to be kind.
That's right.
You just need to calm your little butt down and be kind. We have a new Ramsey personality, Dr. John Deloney. And you're going to be hearing from him a whole lot more. One of his 2 PhDs is in counseling. And so we thought it would be good for John to coach some of you guys on how to talk to yourself about the anxiety, the fear that's out there, how to talk to your family about it. You might be in a leadership role. We were talking about it off air during the break. Some of the stuff I'm having to do as the leader in this organization right now, and how to talk to others, yourself, others. If you want to deal with that, the phone number here. If you've got questions for Dr. D, this is your time. The phone number is 888-825-5225. 888-825-5225. So, John, talk about anxiety versus fear. We were talking about that the other day, and I loved your take on it.
So anxiety is just an alarm system, right? It's just the fire alarm that could go off at any moment when it smells smoke, right? And you often hear about folks with an anxiety disorder. That just means the alarm's busted, right? And we've all been in the building when the fire alarm's going off, and you can't check your email, and they say, hey, don't leave the building, but the fire alarms are going off.
Your
right?
brain's fried.
There you go.
From the hearing.
Fear that's something you're experiencing right now. The building, you look out the window and you see flames. That's fear. That's for real, right? And so I think what we're seeing across the country is fear's real. And if you're not scared on that you think people are overreacting, you're not scared that we're all going to die from this virus, you're not scared about fill in the blank, you're not scared that you have 10 kids at your house now that were supposed to be in school, right? Then I think something's wrong with you, right?
Yeah.
You should be feeling something.
You should feel some angst.
There you go.
Some level of fear.
That's right.
So, good fear is there, and then that keeps you from touching a hot stove. It causes you to analyze and use your critical thinking skills and really lean into a situation.
Absolutely.
Which is what we're dealing with right now. You might have a financial situation. You might have a career mess right now. You might have a health mess right now.
Right.
And so fear in those situations are smart. Overcorrecting with fear, what I've been calling hysteria, and it might not be clinically the correct term, but I'm calling it hysteria, which is people that are just afraid. They're in panic mode. The difference in fear and panic. Talk about that.
Panic is the response, right? It's screaming and yelling and running out the door. And the only thing that you're going to do when you scream and yell and run out the door is trip your neighbor, knock over their lighter so that you set the building off. Panic solves nothing. It solves nothing. And it takes a situation and compounds it and makes it worse.
Yeah.
Everybody, the guy who trained me in crisis counseling, Dr. Andy Young, used to always tell us before we went into a situation, calm is contagious. If you walk into a situation and you're running and screaming, you just take everybody else's temperature up with you. Walk in, assess the situation, slow down, bring the room down, and then you can make good decisions.
I had when I was 22 years old, I was working for a guy, and we were building custom homes, and he used that technique in a little different way. If we had a customer that was irate and sat down in the office, the louder they got, the quieter he got.
Go. That's right.
The louder they got, the more he lowered the octave in his voice intentionally. It was just like Chris Hogan is real quiet and calm. And it just sucks the drama out of the air.
My dad was a hostage negotiator. It used to drive me crazy when he did that to me as a kid, right? I'd come in all freaked out, and he would just kind of bring it down. That's right.
Yeah, the volume down and the octave down and the pulse rate down, and then because no one makes good decisions when they're panicked.
That's right. And when we experience fear, naturally, it's wired into us. We start scanning the environment for fear. And now we're in a world where there is no shortage of people trying to sell us fear. And so it's coming on our phones, it's beeping on our wrists, it's on our TVs, it's everywhere.
And it's really contagious.
It's insane. Clinically so, right? And so it's how do you turn the noise off? How do you turn it down, bring it down a notch?
And I think some of the times what happens is, when I was talking to our team yesterday, I was describing to them the idea that the physiological response to fear and anger is pretty close. The same things happen to your body in both cases. You have the same, your eyes dilate, you have a protein endorphin release and adrenaline release, your heart rate changes, so fear and anger feel a lot alike. They are cousins, aren't they?
I think physiologically you can say that. That's fair.
Yeah, and then just how we choose to name it in those situations, what your default mechanism is. My default is anger. My wife's default is fear. I've got a good friend whose default is fear. And that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean you're a fearful person or an angry person. It just means that's how you interpret a situation, how you choose to go at it if you don't stop and breathe.
And wisdom is knowing what my default setting is, catching myself before I do something, and surrounding myself with smart people who know that's my default setting, right? I got a group of guys in my life who know I'm about to, they'll roll their eyes and say, that's Deloney, right? They know where I'm about to head with something, and they're there to kind of rein me back in.
Yeah. The phone number, if you want to talk to Dr. D about these things that are going on in the marketplace, 888-825-5225, 888-825-5225. One of you is going to be the first call he ever takes in his radio career. You have that opportunity right now. That's like winning the sweepstakes right there.
I'm going to, yeah, and that, I don't know what that wins you.
So, in most situations, in my experience, when the threat is real, people rise up. And in situations like this, where the fear has spread to a real threat to the point that the reaction does not match the threat, and you know, from the times you've done where you've been in crisis counseling with folks, you've been in situations like that, do you see that people have a tendency, just the human animal has a tendency to do that?
I think you just said it best. It's you kind of devolve to your animal instincts, right? Which is to either say all the information we're getting is stupid, or all the information we're getting is the right thing, or I'm going to start buying toilet paper as though we're having a mass diarrhea epidemic, right? I mean, it's this, people are responding irrationally, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Dysentery is not one of the symptoms of coronavirus.
Not one of the things. Not one of the things.
Yeah, it's not what's causing it, but I have no idea. And water, being in the water system is not one of the methods.
A couple of weeks ago when it started
bottled
selling out of
water,
water.
you couldn't get the bottled water.
I've got a hose. I don't know, man. I just don't get it. What are you doing? If there was a run on meat or a run on vegetables, I could go with that, or a run on vitamin C. Water. I got a sink, man. I got a bathtub. I mean, yeah.
As if the public water supply was going to get tainted.
Who knows? But again,
what was going through people's minds?
Nothing good.
Yeah.
Nothing thoughtful, I guess.
Yeah. So how do you talk to your teen right now, your college student that has been infected by this fear, and help them have the wisdom to address the actual threat without an overreaction?
I'll default back to another thing we learned in crisis counseling, which is facts are your friends. Be honest, be straightforward, be direct, which is we've never experienced this before. Some people are saying this, some people are saying this, some people are telling us to do this. And in this house, here's how we're going to handle it, right? And be pretty clear. I think having a plan for the next couple of weeks on here's what our days are going to look like, here's how we're going to interact with each other, here's how we're going to honor one another, here's how we're going to limit our screen time in the house. I think there's all kinds of things we can do, but you got to be intentional. Same as you would starting a business, same as you would trying to have a great marriage, right? You got to be intentional.
Okay. Chris, are we going to be okay?
Absolutely, Dave. We're going to be okay. We have to calm down all the way around and quit watching so much crazy stuff on media.
Oh, my gosh. It is scary the way people are acting. And I think that's more scary than the actual facts.
I agree.
And it has been for several weeks. The hysteria, which is panic, out of control, is not your friend.
Yeah.
As John Deloney says, facts are your friend.
Yes. I like that.
And, when you're in a crisis, and we obviously have a health crisis in America, we obviously have a corresponding financial crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And so, bad processes, bad principles that have been in either one of those areas and or either one of those areas of your life are starting to reveal themselves. If you had a health weakness, a financial weakness, it was okay when everything was okay.
Right.
But now it's being exposed. And when you stress test stupid, it comes up looking pretty stupid. Stupid doesn't stress test well. And, we get ready to launch a website around here. We always stress test it. They load test it.
Right.
They put a load on it, see if it can carry the load before we turn it open to the public. And this is being, some of you are your best financial ideas, it's really hard right now to be really comfortable based on your airline miles.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. They have been virtually disposed.
Yeah. So let's see. Those airline miles you were trying to collect
didn't work.
It's kind of that Dr. Phil moment. How's that working for you now? So, what some of the things that people believed about money are now officially challenged, And that is the good news of the bad news. The hard times expose this stuff and make you say never again. Sometimes you go through a personal Great Depression, and sometimes the nation goes through an actual stress time. And in 2008, a bunch of people learned their lesson.
Yes.
And I learned my lesson when I went broke because I was stupid. And my stupid ideas got stress tested, and I got my face beat in. And I was in my 20s, and I got the opportunity to start again with the knowledge that that experience gave me. And some of you right now, I'm not going to tell you I told you so, but this is your wake-up call. You're going to have the opportunity to start again with the knowledge that this mess has given you.
I completely agree, Dave. And we're having right now, I'm doing Instagram Live each day from 11 to 11:30. I'm seeing more of an awakening for people where they go, they're either in two camps. Thank goodness, Dave, for your message, and I've got an emergency fund, or I was on my way, or I should have listened sooner. And of those three, I keep telling people, you've got an opportunity to make this information become knowledge and wisdom when you apply it in your life. But what we have to do is now realize more than ever that we cannot wait on the government, Dave, to save the day. I know they're talking about all the little stimulus packages, and I tell people, it's going to help, but it's not going to continue.
Well, it's not going to help, but it's a little bit like peeing on a forest fire. I mean, it's a bit of a joke. I mean, it's going to help, but it's, if $1,000 saves your life, you didn't have a life.
That's true.
And so financial life, I mean, that's just absurd. If payroll taxes being removed from a business saves it, it probably ain't going to make it anyway. If you were that close to the edge anyway. So it's more political hogwash than it is anything. It makes everybody feel better and makes the markets feel better. And if they want to do it, it's okay. But forgiving $10,000 of your student loan debt doesn't fix your financial problem.
Right.
You are going to fix your financial problem. And that message has not changed around here. The people that have debt and no savings, they're finding out that this idea that there's good debt is bogus because this is when their stupid idea is stress tested.
Yeah.
Every time there's debt, it accelerates the volatility in your life and in the nation's life. Because the consumer is so leveraged and the consumer has no savings. And so, 1-2 week period of time with no pay and you're just completely devastated.
Right.
And so what happened to me, because I was stupid, was I had that same thing happen, only it wasn't a 2 week period of time. I made $200,000 one year in my 20s. The next year I made $6,000 in the process of losing everything we owned. And I discovered I borrowed money. It wasn't my friend. It was only my friend when everything went perfect, and never does everything go perfect. And not having any cash was a dumb idea. Not having grandma's rainy day fund, it's going to rain, dummy. That's what I kept saying to myself. And so I changed that, and thank God I did all those years ago. And I've talked to a few of you out there, a few million of you out there into doing that. And so you're sitting there right now kind of feeling like, wow, this stuff works. I'm really glad that all those people that made fun of me, my broke friends, when they were making fun of me for cutting up my credit cards because I didn't get the airline miles, which try flying on it right now.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to be in your home sucking your thumb. You're not supposed to be flying on an airplane. And so no trouble social distancing on them though, because nobody's on them. But you see the thing. I mean, it's everything is exponentially more volatile in our economy and in our personal homes the more debt we have. And in other words, debt equals risk. Now, This is not something that you have not said and I have not said.
That's exactly right.
We have been saying this, and now we're observing it like a bunch of lab rats.
Well, and Dave, and people are feeling it and hearing it on another level now.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. I've heard you say this before, that you have to get to your uncle point. And I have uncles, where they would get me in holds and get me in that point where I would say,
I
uncle.
must have been a big uncle.
Well, I was little. I was little then.
You was a little boy.
I was a little guy.
A little Chris.
But unfortunately, this is what requires us to wake up and really and truly not just talk about change, but be about change in our lives. And I'm talking to people that'll say, Chris, this has never happened to me again.
Yeah.
This feeling.
Never again.
Never again.
When you have that never again moment.
That's
never
right.
again will American Express call my house unless it's a wrong number, because I'm not doing business with them. Never again. No matter what. I will never be in a position without cash for my emergency fund. No matter what, no one's going to come and collect my car out of the driveway unless it's because I called them and it was broken. No matter what, right? And
that's right.
That's what happened to me because I was stupid and I got myself into a mess. And some of y'all, Chris and I are not, no one at Ramsey is going to get up in your face and say, I told you so, and thump our chests about how smart we are. We understand that this is your wake-up call. This is your unique moment in time, and you're going to look back and go, thank God for the coronavirus. It changed my life. When you look back 10 years from now, if you will take this moment in time to change, you will look at this and say, thank God. Like I say, thank God I went bankrupt in my 20s.
Yep.
Because it changed my life. Because I was stupid and I got my wake-up call. Thank God for it. So if you're out there, if you're out there, you wouldn't. If you're not out there, you wouldn't be listening to this. But since you're out there, you're in one of two or three camps, I suspect. Most people have some level of fear, if we want to downgrade it all the way into concern. I have concerns. I don't have a lot of fears, but I have some concerns right now. And some of you have fears and concerns about coronavirus. And you're worried about your health. You're worried about the health of the nation. If you have a medical issue that you're recovering from, a member of your family that is, or you're elderly and susceptible in the high-risk group, that is a valid concern now. Just like the flu is a valid concern for you. It could take you out. And so the virus could be fatal in that situation. We all know that now. We've all talked about that. And we all know that the vast majority of the deaths, almost all of them, have been in those categories. And so almost all of the folks that were healthy previous to getting the virus have had full recoveries. So we know that now. And so those are some facts. But people are pretty freaked out about the virus and the pandemic. And the World Health Organization has now footing in our psychology that it never had before. The CDC has footing and credibility in our minds that it never had before, superseding that of governments even, in some of your minds. And people have gone a little crazy. Some of you are more afraid now of the cure. This everyone stays at home and does nothing, so the economy completely implodes for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks. How many weeks of that can this economic system that we've built endure? How many weeks of that can your family endure? How many weeks of that can your small business endure? And so you're afraid. So let me first just tell you, as Uncle Dave or Papa Dave or whatever you want to call it, I'm going to be a little parental. I'm often that, so if you're not used to that, get over it. When people are afraid, some of you are misbehaving. You're being mean to other people, and you need to stop that. You're being mean to other family members inside your family because your fear is out of control, and you need to calm your butt down and behave. Some of you are misbehaving. A friend of mine was in Walgreens and stepped across some blue mythical line in there that had something to do with social distancing, and some twerp in skinny jeans yelled at her. Stop that. You're misbehaving. Your fear is causing you to misbehave. Calm down. My friend John Maxwell often says that hurting people hurt people. And so you're scared, and out of your fear, you're doing harm to other people, and you need to stop it. You need to be kind. The number of mean, nasty, threatening, horrible things that have been said about me in the past 7 days is off the scale. Well, I can handle it, but it just reveals you. It doesn't reveal me. My character didn't change a week ago. My character's always been exactly what my character is. I've never been greedy, capitalistic, horrible, put people in harm's way for $1. I've never done that in 30 years, and there's no evidence to that fact. And yet I've been accused of all of those things because some of you are just meaner than crud. because you're scared. When I was growing up, I had a little dog that was a Boston Terrier. I love those little bulldogs, named Muggsy. And I was a little guy. I was about 7 years old. Muggsy ran in front of a golf ball as my neighbor was swinging, practicing driving in the backyard, hit Muggsy in the head, knocked her out. When she came back around, she was in shock. And he brought her up and put her in the front yard, and the dog was trying to bite everything because it was in shock. Well, I, in my naivete, thought I could just run over, and little Muggsy, who slept in my bed every night, and little Davy would be best buddies, and that dog was getting ready to tear my arm off, and my dad or one of the neighborhood men grabbed me and pulled me back and they threw a blanket over that dog and took it to the vet, and it never again liked golf balls after it came back around. But that's when I first learned that even things that you love, when they're afraid and wounded, will hurt you. You need to stop being one of those. Everybody start being a little nicer. Find someone you can leave an extra big tip with. Find someone you can just smile at. They're afraid, some of them. And they're more afraid, some of them, than they've ever been in their adult lives because they've never really faced a crisis before. Some of these youngsters have never faced a real hard time. For them, the hard time was that the battery on their cell phone was running low. And they need your mercy and your love, and you need to be kind. I don't care what you do to me, I'm going to be kind to you. I'm going to love every one of you. I'm going to give you a big old hug. And I'm going to help you. And I'm going to block you on Twitter if you're a moron. So this is what we're going to do for the next couple hours. John, you ready?
I love every second of it.
Yeah. So we'll take some calls, those of you that have questions about fear and anxiety. But I think some kindness is in order. I think some people need to start being
order,
nice.
top of the line, everywhere. Just be kind.
Yeah. Just stop.
Just stop. Just be kind.
It's not our nature to do that when we're in trouble.
That's right.
Our nature is to lash out.
That's right.
And some of these people are showing that they have the emotional maturity of a 4-year-old. And they're functioning at that level. And the things you say on Twitter, the things you say on Instagram, the things you say to your own family, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You need to be nice.
Start right now. Be kind.
Spread kindness.
Everywhere. Everywhere.
Hugs. Listen, you want social distancing? You better stay away from me because I'm going to hug you. Come here, John. Dr. John Deloney joins me on air today, newly minted Ramsey personality, answering your questions. Abe is next. Abe is in Illinois. Hi, Abe. How can we help?
Hey, Dave, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
I can. Hey, Abe, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
Outstanding.
Hey, Dave, I just wanted to say you opened my eyes at such a young age. I'm only 16. I used to spend money like crazy, but, now I just save because spending money to, impress people you don't like is, as you say, stupid. But my question is, so my parents own a small business, and like they're freaking out because all they watch is like CNN, and like they're freaking out about the coronavirus, and I wanted to know if you could help them.
Okay.
Man, I wish I was this wise when I was 16, Dave. Abe, you were making me feel better about future generation, man. Way to go.
Thank you so much.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. I would be real direct with your folks, and in a kind and respectful way, but I would say, hey, ask them to connect with you. That could be, hey, I would like to go for a walk. Please turn the TV off. Tell them some crazy guy named Dr. D on the radio on Dave Ramsey's show said, hey, let's just turn the TV off right now and let's go for a walk. My son, he's 9. He challenged me to a Domino's interaction a few months ago, and now it has gotten to quite the fever pitch in our house that we talk some trash and play Domino's together. But just little ways to connect. And also, what I would tell you is something I didn't get when I was 16 is the fear, the worry your parents have, that's real. Like, they love each other, they love you, they want to make sure they are providing for you. And so I'd cut them some grace and some slack too. But as respectfully and kindly as you can, I would recommend that you ask them to turn the TV off and connect with you directly.
Yeah, distract them.
All right. Yeah. For sure, yeah.
Or just start smashing the windows out, and maybe they'll. I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
Give them a different crisis. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. You can tell them about the drug problem you have.
Yeah.
throw a little distraction into the mix.
Right.
The thing that happens, and it's very difficult for parents of almost any age to take advice from their kids. It won't happen probably until you're 60 and they're 80. But until then, they're probably really not looking for you to help them.
That's right.
So you're not in a position of, you're not in a seat that allows you to speak much. It's not telling you have to stuff your feelings. That's not my point. My point is that moms and dads don't really care about your opinion right now. Because you haven't been there yet, and that kind of stuff. Even though I don't doubt that your opinion's actually on pace here. So a couple things you can do, and I just do this about a lot of things where I have someone I need to talk to that's not going to listen to me, is I try to think of who else that could talk to them. Their pastor. Their pastor. Mom and Dad, have y'all talked to a pastor? Have you talked to Uncle Joe, who's really good at business? How's he feeling? Have you talked to whoever? And then the second thing I do is I pray for them. And then the third thing is I try to put new information in front of them that is, hey, I just read this article, Dad. What do you think of this? And it's showing, I posted that good news thing the other day on Instagram, and it's like 300,000 likes in 20 minutes. It was bizarre. But it was a list of all the good news things happening around the whole subject of coronavirus, and giving us hope that it's not forever and it's not going to last forever. Just say, hey, I saw this post. Look at this. And let's try to get some good inputs in front of their brains, not just bad inputs. But for you to sit down and give them wise counsel at 16 years old might be a little laughable. So I probably wouldn't try that angle. We call it the powdered butt syndrome. Once someone has powdered your butt, they don't want your opinion on money and sex. So that's how it goes.
But Abe, I'll tell you this. I had a situation last year where my son came in and said, Dad, do you love the Astros as much as me? This is pre-cheaters. And I was watching the Astros every night. And he just asked, do you love them as much as me? And that one question, I turned the TV off and I connected with him. And so...
you love CNN as much as me. Nobody loves
that. That's right. Find the ways to connect.
Interrupt. Some of you are really scared right now, aren't you? I understand. I've been there. I've been there where things were so out of my control that I couldn't and didn't know what to do, and I couldn't breathe. And it's funny, it doesn't matter how many years go by, and it was 1988 when we filed bankruptcy, so 40 years ago, almost, 30 years ago, over 30. But it doesn't matter, it's decades, right? I mean, I still feel it. I still remember that feeling in your throat, that feeling when your stomach is trying to come up through your throat, that feeling of pounding in the back of your head from stress and just the fear. I didn't have any money. I couldn't get any money. And my lights got cut off and my water got cut off and I got babies. And some of you are facing that right now. Right now. Let me tell you, if you were not afraid in the middle of something like that, you would be a psychopath. So it does mean you have mental health if you're afraid when times are scary. That would be a normal thing. To be afraid about things that are not happening but just might happen, now that's known as a worry wart, right? And Dale Carnegie used to say, he wrote a book on worry, and the thesis of the book was 80% of the things we worry about never occur. I don't know if you can actually statistically cover that, but I think life will tell you that's pretty close. I don't know if I can confirm that, with actual research, but he was making more of a metaphorical statement, but I completely agree. 80% of the stuff I have worried about in my life never happened. Because there's some about all of us, we all anticipate worst case scenarios. And very few people anticipate best case scenarios and live with that. Very few people do that. Now, you need to be able to do both, because you need to be able to look and see when, something's turning down and you prepare for it and you're smart about it and all that kind of stuff. But, we've got some small businesses right now that everyone's all jumping up and down and clapping and so happy that they were so patriotic and so forward thinking that they closed down for the coronavirus. The problem is they'll never reopen. They're gone. And the families that work there lost their jobs. Now, some of you that are freaking out coronavirus freakazoids, you are so happy that they're not operating. But the families aren't happy. They're gone. That family has lost their job, and that restaurant is never going to reopen because they don't have any money, and they've gone broke because they were forced to close and not have customers. And they're gone. They're gone. Well, Dave, that's just what it is. You can't have the virus spreading. I don't want the virus to spread either. I'm just telling you the realities are that those servers and those chefs and those dishwashers, they don't have a job anymore. Those people that worked in that hotel is gone. It's not going to reopen in some cases. Now, some of them will reopen. Some of the big ones will reopen. Some of the restaurants have good shape. They'll reopen. But some of these cities, I mean, when you take the pictures I saw in New York City this morning, it looked like the zombie apocalypse. There's not a soul on the street. I've never seen that in my life, and I'm 60 years old in New York City. And let me just tell you, that's a lot of businesses that are never going to come back. That's a lot of them, because those empty streets mean there is zero revenue, and they are gone. And so there is a thing to be terrified of, and it's unemployment. There's a thing to be terrified of. Your family has no income. That's a thing to be terrified of. And some of you that have gone completely berserk have not considered that in your hysteria while you were shopping in a grocery store who was open and who did have people there. You're just not using good critical thinking skills. So, do I want the virus to spread? Dave Ramsey's irresponsible. Oh, shut up. That's just stupid. What kind of asinine person would actually want a virus to spread or be irresponsible, intentionally causing harm to people? That's just dumb. Of course we don't want that. That's ridiculous. But what we do want, and I love small business. Small business is the backbone of America, and a whole bunch of them are gone. And next week, a whole bunch more of them will be gone if we don't get them back open again. And the families that used to work there are on the street unemployed. And if that's you, here's what you do. If at all possible, do not cash out your retirement. If at all possible, pick up a job delivering food because nobody's open. Get with Uber and deliver things. And you can get some income coming in, and then you take care of food first at your house. This is your budget priorities. Shelter second. Utilities second. Keep the lights and the water on. Make sure there's food on your table. Then the next thing you do is you take care of shelter. You keep your house payment or your rent current. And then transportation. Food, shelter, transportation, and utilities. These are the four walls of your house. If you keep that going, you keep enough of that going until you get reemployed back into your career field, just by keeping the wolf away from your door, you've done a great job, and you've turned the corner in a personal financial crisis caused by hysteria. And you'll make the turn. And I've been there, and I've walked lots of families through that while they might not have had a whole nation around them at the same time doing the same thing, but I've walked lots of families through who were down to the last nub, and we go, what can we do to create income? What can we do to create income? What can we do to create income? Let's get some income coming in. Get you a leaf blower. Rich people are afraid of leaves. Let's go, baby. I mean, let's get you a pressure washer. Everybody's got mildew somewhere, right? I mean, let's get things going here. What can we do? Can we babysit? Can we dog walk? What can we do? I don't care. I'm not too proud to do anything. I'll shovel something. Let's go. I just got to make a little bit of money and keep some food on my baby's table. And then once I do that, I can keep the lights on in my baby's room. That's all I got to do. And you get your head around that, and you get back out there instead of sitting around terrified in the corner sucking your thumb in a fetal position. You get back out there and you start kicking doors again. And it's hard because you're scared and you're overwhelmed. But in the middle of that, use all of that fear as energy to go make some money and create an income as fast as you can, as ridiculous, whatever it is. You can deliver pizzas. Believe me, there's lots of people delivering food, pizzas, and people right now. Lots of them. And some of these industries have gone up, really up. They're busy as crud right now. So go get in that, go make you some money, and keep the wolf away from the door, meaning You're going to get the 4 walls taken care of, and then you can come back to the baby steps and stuff later, and I'll help you. But that's how you do survival mode.